Okay, so unfortunately I'm having storage problems with my computer, which means that this is going to have to probably be in a 5 part response. However, these are the reading questions for week number 8. So, number 1, describe the difficulties, barriers students with autism, spectrum disorders, or ASD face. First, students with ASD face like problems that visual learners face. They don't do well with text, they don't do well with auditory instruction, they need hands-on. So a good example of this would be like little building blocks that you could actually take and put together or add and subtract or multiply with. Another thing that they face is that their handwriting is not exactly the best. So, in cases where you have autistic students who need to take and write, a good related thing to do would be to actually provide them with like word processors. Another thing is they have a lot of visual stimulants because they are visual learners. So items like fluorescent bulbs, things that take and like flicker, those are going to be major distractions for our autistic children because of the fact that they become fixated on items. They take and focus really heavily on something that stimulates them. And once again, being visual learners, that's what stimulates them. Another thing is they are very, can we say, not receptive, but they're very sensitive to loud noises. So bells, buzzers, things that actually take and anything loud. They need to have that thing, or they need to have those things gradually given to them rather than all at once. So if you can take and do that, it's very good for them. Another thing is making transitions. It's difficult for students with autism because they might still be focused on the other lesson or the other part of the lesson, and the teacher might have already taken and moved on to the next part. So there needs to be clear barriers between transitions for autistic students, and sometimes you need to repeat 1, 2, maybe even 3 times to make sure they know when you're making those transitions. They need to know where the bookends are, so to speak. So they also have trouble remembering information, which means that they need to take and have organizational aids with them. This could be graphic organizers, this could be repeating information to them several times. Anything that can actually take and help these guys get organized is a very, very good thing. Another thing is they cannot process visual and auditory information sometimes at the same time. So if they're taking in auditory information and then they get something visually, they're overstimulated. They're overwhelmed, if you will. And at that point, your autistic learners are going to take and actually respond in the way that many of us would respond when we're overwhelmed, and that's become frustrated and possibly even like shut down, or possibly even worse, like crying or something. So you need to take and actually make things separate or digestible for your autistic students so that they do not feel overwhelmed, so they don't feel oversaturated with information. And another thing is, don't think abstractly. Think in very general terms where the information is coming in and you do not have any like idioms or anything like that. So, and an example would be like if I said I was running to the store, I wouldn't use that information around, or I wouldn't use that around autistic students, given the fact that if they think of running to a store, they're going to think of me like running literally to the store, jogging, if you will. So you do not use slang, do not use idioms. Take and be as literal as possible with your autistic students. So this information came from Teaching Tips for Children and Adults with Autism by Temple Grandin, and that was from December of 2002. And then the other information is from Oasis MAAP, which is from Emily Tucker. So part 2 will be addressing question number 2.